President Bola Tinubu has joined the United States Department of Justice in seeking additional time to respond to a legal motion demanding the release of records connected to long-running allegations of drug trafficking. Tinubu's legal team filed a notice of joinder before the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, asking to be placed on the same timetable as the defendants in the case. The filing, published online by Von Batten Montague York, a U.S.-based policy advisory and lobbying firms retained by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, places the Nigerian president directly in the latest legal developments surrounding the records. According to the notice filed by Tinubu's lawyers, the president joined the defendant's request for a 10-day extension to respond to a motion for summary judgment. Intervenor joins defendants. Motion for a 10-day extension of time to file response to the motion for summary judgment. The filing stated, adding that Tinubu wanted the responses to remain on the same schedule. The notice was signed by Christopher W. Carmichael and Victor P. Henderson of Henderson Parks, LLC. The filing indicated that the plaintiff opposed the request for additional time, while the defendant did not oppose it. However, the request was subsequently denied by U.S. District Judge Beryl Howell, according to Von Batten Montague York. The development has now brought renewed attention to a case that has remained before the U.S. courts for more than 3 years. The case, Aaron Greenspan v. Executive Office for U.S. Attorneys Ectal, Civil Action Number 23-1816, BAH, concerns efforts to obtain records relating to U.S. investigation and allegations involving Tinubu and suspected drug trafficking activities. The latest legal filing means the president's legal team is seeking to participate in the proceedings on the same timetable as the U.S. government's defendants. Von Batten Montague York subsequently criticized the move in a post on X, alleging that the request for additional time could provide Tinubu with an opportunity to exert political influence in Washington. The firm alleged that the additional time could potentially be used to lobby U.S. officials against releasing the records. It further suggested that arguments could be made that disclosure of the documents might affect U.S.-Nigeria relations or cooperation between the two countries on security matters. The firm also raised concerns about what it described as possible attempts by U.S. government officials to interfere with the Judicial or Freedom of Information Act process. The allegations, however, remain part of the political and legal disputes surrounding the records. At the heart of the case are documents sought by the plaintiff that relate to historical U.S. investigations involving Tinubu. Previous reports have connected Tinubu to a $460,000 asset forfeiture in the United States dating back to the early 1990s. The forfeiture became linked to a U.S. federal investigation involving a Chicago-based heroin trafficking network operating during the late 1980s and early 1990s. U.S. courts records and affidavits from American authorities have previously been cited in reporting about the case. In 1993, a U.S. District Court ordered the forfeiture of $460,000 held in an account in Tinubu's name to the U.S. government. The order stated that the fund represented proceeds of narcotics trafficking or were involved in transactions that violated U.S. money laundering laws. The historical forfeiture has continued to feature prominently in political debates surrounding Tinubu, particularly during periods of heightened scrutiny of his past in the United States. Tinubu, however, has consistently denied wrongdoing and rejected allegations that he was involved in drug trafficking. His legal representatives have maintained that the forfeiture proceeding was a civil in rem action directed against the money rather than a criminal prosecution against Tinubu personally. That distinction remains central to the president's defense. His lawyers have also argued that Tinubu was never arrested, indicated that arraigned or convicted of a drug offense in the United States. The current court battle is therefore not a criminal prosecution against the Nigerian president. Instead, It centers on the release of records sourced through the U.S. Judicial and Freedom of Information Act process. TINUBU'S decision to join the request for additional time has nevertheless intensified attention surrounding the documents and what they may contain. The president's legal team is seeking to remain on the same schedule as the U.S. government's defendants as the court considers the motion for summary judgment. For Judge Beryl Howell has now denied the requested 10-day extension, meaning the attempt to delay the response has not been granted. The case is expected to continue as the court considers the competing positions concerning the requested records. For TINUBU, the dispute represents another chapter in the long-running controversy surrounding the historical U.S. forfeiture and allegations connected to drug trafficking. For those seeking the documents, the case represents an opportunity to obtain additional records that could shed more light on the investigations and decisions surrounding the forfeiture. The legal battle has therefore moved beyond the original historical allegations and into a new question. Will the U.S. court require the records to be released? TINUBU maintains that he was never criminally prosecuted or convicted for drug trafficking in the United States. His lawyers continue to distinguish the 1993 forfeiture proceedings from a criminal conviction, insisting that the case involved the seizure of money rather than a finding of criminal guilt against the president. The latest filing, however, places TINUBU directly before the U.S. court as an intervenor seeking to remain on the same schedule as the government defendants. And with a 10-day extension now denied, attention will turn to the next stage of the proceedings on whether the long-sought records connected to the allegations will eventually become public. For more insightful reports, stay with us on First Next News. I'm Chidera Isom. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next reports.